Welcome back. We are in Khan Academy under Algebra 1, and the unit is Quadratic Functions and Equations. We are looking at the skill graph parabolas in all forms. So they're going to throw quadratic functions at us in standard form and vertex form and factored form and I don't know, maybe some other random arrangements, and we're going to have to figure out how to graph them. They will sometimes, possibly always, require us to find the vertex and some other point on the parabola, and we have options. We can find points on the parabola that are x-intercepts for one of these, or we could find the y-intercept for that point if we can find the vertex, and if it isn't also an x-intercept or a y-intercept, then that would be enough to graph this. Or we could just find some other point, any other point that is on this parabola and the vertex, and that's fine. Then we'd have enough to graph. So this is in standard form, and standard form is very simple to find the y-intercept of, because the y-intercept means you're on the y-axis, so the x value will be 0. So if you put 0 in here, substitute 0 for x, that term becomes 0, that term becomes 0, and all you have left is the function value equals -6. So when x is 0, y is -6. So we'll put that there. We're assuming that it's not the vertex that lands there. And then we'll try and figure out, where does that vertex go? Well, it's in standard form, so we can find the x-coordinate of our vertex from a piece of the quadratic formula, -b divided by 2a. And in this case, b is -6, so the opposite of -6 is 6, divided by 2 times a. A is -1, so -1 times 2 is -2. So that simplifies to -3. This is our x-coordinate of our vertex. Oh, and I randomly put it on -3. That was lucky of me, but okay. So now my vertex is in the correct x position, but notice I can move this up or down without changing where it crosses the y-axis. So now I have to figure out what is the y-coordinate of the vertex? Well, I know the x-coordinate, so I can just substitute -3 for x in the original problem, or the original equation, and that will give me my y value of my vertex. Okay, so negative times -3 squared minus 6 times -3 minus 6 equals g of -3. So my y-coordinate of my vertex, which has an x-coordinate of -3, will be whatever that number evaluates to. This expression evaluates to a certain number. So -3 squared is 9, so I've got -9. -6 times -3 is positive 18 minus 6. So I have, this is equal to g of -3. -9 plus 18 is 9. 9 minus 6 is 3. So 3 is my y-coordinate, and I will make sure I put this on +3. So -3, +3, that's my vertex. Next question. Graph the equation. This time they gave us a parabola or a quadratic function in factored form. So the factors are 2, x plus 1, and x minus 1. Each of those is a factor. When it's in factored form, it's very simple to find your x-intercepts. Whatever makes a factor equal 0 will make the product equal 0. So if that product is 0, the y-coordinate is 0. If the y-coordinate is 0, you're on the x-axis. So -1, if x is -1, that would make this factor 0. If x is positive 1, then this factor would be 0. So we know we cross the x-axis at 1 and negative 1. Now if I move the vertex around here, that point stays put, but the other one moves around. So the only location, the x-coordinate I can use for my vertex has to be halfway between 1 and negative 1, which means x has to equal 0 for my vertex. So I'll substitute 0. I'll substitute 0 for x, and I get y of 0 equals 2 times 0 plus 1 times 0 minus 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. So, negative 2 is my y-coordinate. And we go to the next one. Next problem. Here's this function. This function is in vertex form. So, built right into it is our coordinates x and y for my vertex. The x-coordinate is the opposite of negative 2. The y-coordinate is whatever constant I find added out here. Well, I don't find one, or actually I find one that's hidden, right? It's plus nothing, which is plus 0. So, vertex lands right on the x-axis in this case. Then, what I want to do is plot this other point somewhere, but it's not particularly apparent where it crosses the y-axis. I see that I'm going to be multiplying by a fraction, but my only options on this widget are to put this on integers. So I'm going to have the expression right here, right there, be a multiple of 2 so that it cancels with the 2 in the denominator. Okay, so what would happen if I had x be 0? If I have x equals 0, then g of 0 equals negative 3 halves times negative 2 squared. Negative 2 squared is 4, so that equals 4 times negative 3 halves. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. So, when x is 0, g of x is negative 6. I can plot that. When x is 0, g of x is negative 6. Graph this function. It is in standard form. We did one like that, so I'll leave this one to you.